So I want to start by just saying last night, as we were studying the portion, every day we study the Rashi on the portion, and we were studying, we asked the question, I think I actually might have asked it, but it came out of everybody studying together. What was the name of this angel that Bilaam was interacting with? Just to remind everybody the basic story, that Bilaam sets out on the journey on his donkey, and while he's on the journey on the donkey sees an angel in the path, and the angel has his sword, and the donkey stops, and Bilaam strikes the donkey 3 times. So usually Rashi tells us who the name of the angels are. In this, when the angels appear in Bereshis, Rashi tells us who they are. But this time, Rashi doesn't tell us who the angel is. Rashi just calls this angel. Actually, Rashi says a very interesting way to describe this angel. Rashi says the following. It says the donkey sees the angel of God, and Rashi says the following. I'm going to look for the exact language here. He says that sees the angel of God, and Rashi says here, the angel was standing. In verse 22, it says that in verse 22, Vayichar Afa Elokim, and God was angry because Bilam was going to try to curse the Jewish people. And there was an angel of God standing in the path to thwart him. The word Satan here means to thwart, not Satan. It's a verb. But who is it? And then it says, and Bilam is riding on his donkey, and he has his 2 young attendants with him. Rashi doesn't name this angel, but Rashi calls them Malach Shal Rachamim. Rashi calls him an angel of mercy. Why? Because he was trying to prevent Bilam from sinning. Shelo Yachatev Yovad. He was trying to prevent him from sinning and perishing. So God sent an angel of mercy to try to confront the donkey on the road to prevent him from sinning. Sometimes God stops us from doing something, and we think that God is punishing us or God is attacking us, and Bilam is striking the donkey. Bilam was a prophet. He had great insight, but he didn't realize that God had sent an angel of mercy to prevent us from doing something. Rabbi Soloveitchik used to say, do you know how hard I prayed in pre-World War II? I prayed that I wouldn't have to leave Poland. I wouldn't have to leave Russia. Do you know how hard I prayed that I should be able to stay back in Lithuania? He prayed so hard, and of course he had to leave, and that's what saved his life. So sometimes we think Hashem is punishing us, but really it's an angel of mercy. Yes, Guy has a question here.
When among there was other angels that came to different prophets, and they were defined as different roles according to their roles, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, you're correct. So guys,
so none of them can be referred to the angel of mercy, right? That done the job or similar to that, because it refers in the Torah most of the time that the angel has specific missions.
Right. So Guy is asking actually a very, very powerful question. Now, why all the angels are really angels of mercy? God is sending an angel. Every angel is an angel of mercy. So why it is? Because every angel has a mission. Why doesn't Rashi refer to the earlier angels that were sent in the Torah? Jacob wrestled with the angel. Abraham meets the angels. The angel of God who calls out and tells Abraham to stop, not to slaughter. Why in all those cases was it not called the angel of mercy? Why only here does he call the angel of mercy? So that's the Guy's question. And the way I think to answer it is because it's always clear that it's an angel of mercy, but in this time, we might have thought it's an angel of Satan. He's trying to thwart him. We might have thought that this angel was against Bilaam. So Rashi has to remind us, no, when God sends the angel, it's always an angel of mercy. When God sends something, it's always an angel of mercy. So, okay, well, hold on. We're going to put out the angel. Rashi refers to this angel as the angel of mercy. And then we were wondering, but Rashi elsewhere gives the angels names. And here, the angel does not have a name. Why doesn't Rashi give the angel a name? So then I was wondering, what is this name of this angel? I said, well, this angel must have a name. So when you don't know what the name of an angel is, where do you look? So we tried Google, but Google didn't give us any answers. But Reb Chaim Kanievsky has a sefer, Reb Chaim Kanievsky, blessed memory, and he answers questions like this. And he actually cites that 3 different sources for 3 different names of this angel. And one of them, I should have checked right away, one of them is the angel is the source of the Balaturim, writing in the 14th century. And the Balaturim actually says that this, and he actually gives a name to it. So I want to read the Balaturim, and from the Balaturim's discussion, you can see the name of this angel. So it says in the verse, in chapter 22, verse 32, it says, Vayomer el malach Hashem, the angel of God said to him, why did you strike your donkey 3 times? Hine anochi yatzati l'satan ki yarata de'arach negdi. Behold, I went out to thwart him because you were quickly running on the road against me. So the Balaturim, writing in the 14th century, writes, Hine anochi yatzati l'satan, says this means, yatzati mimidati mimidat rachamim. I departed from my usual character, that of mercy. Because shemalach rachamim haya, that he was a mercy. So, but yet, I went out, even though I'm an angel of mercy, I went out to stop you. Now, well, there's a lot of footnotes on this that we could read, but first, and Malach Hashem Baderach, the Balaturim says, the angel of God on the path, Bigematria is the numerical value. You know, we assign a number to each letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Is Gavriel Hamalach, is the angel Gabriel. So that's what the Balaturim says. So basically, the Balaturim is saying that the name of this angel is Gabriel. That's the first source that the Balaturim, that Reb Chaim Kanievsky cites. So he says, why did they call this an angel of mercy? Because it's Malach Hashem, and the word Hashem, the name of God, that's Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, the 4-letter name of God, is a name associated with mercy. And when we study the Balaturim, it's such an opaque text, we always read it with the footnotes of this incredible edition of the Art Scroll. The Art Scroll came out with an incredible edition of the Balaturim, and I want to read this. They have basically a 2-page footnote here, so I want to read it here. Many midrashim and many of the Kabbalistic writings, and they cite 10 sources here, depict Michael, the angel, as a watery angel standing to the right of the heavenly throne and representing the divine attribute of mercy and loving kindness, while Gabriel is a fiery angel standing to the left of the heavenly throne and representing the divine attribute of strict judgment. Accordingly, the Balaturim's assertion that the angel who confronted Bilaam was an angel of mercy and that angel was named Gabriel seems to contradict each other, because Michael is the angel of mercy, Gabriel is the angel of judgment. And we just want to pause here and say that many other sources the other sources say that the angel was not Gabriel, but the angel of Michael. So those are two sources. One source says Gabriel, the second source says Michael, and then the third source, I'll tell you what it is after we read these footnotes. Now, so this is what they write. The name Gabriel implies the attribute of strict justice. Nevertheless, we find various missions of mercy assigned to the angel Gabriel. 1, Gabriel assisted Raphael in saving Lot and his family from the destruction of Sodom. 2, when Joseph was blundering in the field, it was the angel Gabriel who gave him directions. So Gabriel, first of all, assisted Lot in being saved from Sodom. 2, he gave Joseph directions. 3, Gabriel acted to protect Tamar, from whom would descend King David when Amnon was assaulting when Judah wanted to put Tamar to death, the angel Gabriel saved her. 4, Gabriel taught Joseph 70 languages, and therefore Joseph succeeded in whatever he did. 5, when Jerusalem was about to be destroyed, God sent an angel to pass through the midst of the city and make a sign on the foreheads of the righteous people so that the destructive angels shall have no power over them. And the Talmud identifies that angel as Gabriel. 6, Gabriel is the one who cooled the coals that would have destroyed all of Israel along with the Beis HaMikdash. And 7, Gabriel saved Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah from Nebuchadnezzar's furnace. So, even though Gabriel, according to many sources, is the angel of justice, we have here these 7 examples from the Talmud of Gabriel being the angel of mercy. And indeed, the Talmud states, Michael, this is from Barachos 4b, Michael ba'achas, Gavriel b'shtayim. The angel Michael completes his mission with 1 flutter of his wings, and the angel Gabriel with 2. The Kabbalistic work Sefer HaPliya explains that Michael needs to exert only half the effort that Gabriel requires, because Michael is kulo rachamim, entirely mercy, while Gabriel is kashev v'rapeh, hard and soft, judgmentally and merciful. So Gabriel has to do twice the effort. So based on the above, the ArtScroll footnote says it's suggested just as Michael and the angels under him are responsible for carrying out God's mission of mercy, so are Gabriel and the angels under him. Both groups are ministering angels from the right side as opposed to destructive angels from the left side. So when Hashem calls for mercy, also Gabriel can do it. But when God calls for judgment, that's only Gabriel and not Michael. But this is another sources. The idea, you could also just argue that many sources say that it was not Gabriel. The other sources say it was Michael. And it's just interesting before we get to discussing the third source, and the questions here, it's interesting to know that, like, what's the significance of this? Like, why do we care what the name of the angel is? I think it shows us how do we view the angels are a way of explaining God's interaction with the world. That God sends out a messenger and a mission, and most of the time it's not really simple to all of us to understand. So the angel Gabriel seems to me like a more complex angel, that he has judgment and mercy associated, because we sometimes don't know when the decree comes down, if it's a decree of judgment or a decree of mercy. So this is what some of the ideas that are out there. Let me just pause for a second. The guy has a question here. Hold on. The third angel, the name of the third angel here is called the angel of death, the Malach HaMaves. That there is an angel called the angel of death, and we don't always know that this angel doesn't have a name, but this angel is actually a complicated figure in the Talmud. There are a couple of times where the angel of death is defeated. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi tricks the angel of death and jumps into the Garden of Eden with his sword. In Gemara and Ksubos 66b, he jumps in with his sword. So the angel of death is we see him wrestling to try and figure out how to kill King David. And we also see a story where the angel of death tricks Shlomo HaMelech. And so there are different scenes with the angel of death, but the angel of death pretty much is not called a bad angel. He's just called an angel who's got a mission, and his mission is to take us so far as a couple of people who beat this angel of death, but that's just it. Most of us, overwhelming odds are that we're not going to beat this angel, that this angel is too powerful for us to beat. So those are the three angels that Rav Chaim Kanievsky gives names to them. Then, once I had the Balaturim open, I couldn't help but the angel of death is mentioned in the book of Daniel. Aya says, okay, I'm going to have to, one more thing to look up in this beautiful book that I have. The one more thing I wanted to mention here, once I had the Balaturim open, is that the verse states, I just want to say a couple of things about the next verse. And this goes back to the question that Richard raised. It says, let me read the verse with the commentary of Rashi and then also the Balaturim, because I have the Balaturim open. It says in the next verse, Vaterani aton, and the donkey saw me. Bilaam says, the reason why the donkey stopped is because she saw me. Vateit lefanai zeh shalosh regalim. She turned away from me these 3 times. Uay natata mi panai ki ata gam otcha rakti voto hachayiti. If she had not turned away from me, then also you I would have killed, and I would have let her live. Listen carefully to that again. He said, if the donkey had not turned away from me these 3 times, I would have killed you and let her live. Wait. The donkey is alive. What do you mean I would have let her live? The donkey is alive. The donkey's not dead. So what's going on here? So here's where we look at the Rashi. And the Rashi says something very powerful. Very, very powerful statement from Rashi. The Rashi says the following, based upon the Gemara. Rashi says, what do you mean I would have let her live? But now, because she spoke and rebuked you, Vata, and you were unable to withstand her rebuke, as it says, the donkey rebuked Bilaam and said, did I ever let you down before? And Bilaam said, no. So the donkey successfully rebuked Bilaam, and therefore I had to kill her. The angel says, I killed this donkey. Why? Because the donkey, as Richard said, could see better than this great prophet. The donkey actually rebuked the prophet. The prophet's whole job is to rebuke. But the donkey rebuked the prophet, and therefore I had to kill the donkey. Why? Because Hashem, Shechas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shechas HaMakom Al Kavod HaBriot. Because God takes pity on people's dignity. It would have been humiliating for Bilaam for him to walk around and people to point out, oh, that's the donkey that defeated Bilaam in an argument. So because that would have been humiliating to Bilaam, God killed the donkey as a way of protecting and being compassionate for Bilaam. So that's even though Bilaam is the wicked one in this story, this is the way the rabbis read it. So important is human dignity. Why would the rabbis teach us this? To tell us if human dignity is so important that there would be a miraculous donkey that came across once in all of human history, and yet And there was a wicked person who was embarrassed by it, Bilaam, the wicked one, who was setting out to kill the Jewish people. But so important is human dignity that God, the angel, killed the donkey so as not to embarrass Bilaam. How much more so must we go out of our way to protect the dignity of people who we meet around us, who are tzaddikim, who are good people, who are not Bilaams? How much more so must we go out of their way to protect human dignity? That's the message I take from that Rashi, from that powerful Rashi. And now, once we are reciting that verse, I wanted to share with you the Baal HaTurim's commentary on it, because it's also a very powerful commentary. The Baal HaTurim says, V'ota hechayiti, and you I will let live, and you I will let live. So, what does that mean, V'ota hechayiti? So the Baal HaTurim notes, Malevav, that it's spelled in full. It's spelled in full. Really, he's talking about, he says, V'ota hechayitani, and you, the word and is preceded, the word ota is preceded by a vav. And he says, this teaches us, she'ishiva ota shisha dvarim, that this angel, that the donkey responded 6 things to Bilaam. He had six claims against Bilaam. And also, v'nivreit biyom hashishi bein hashmashot. The donkey was created, this miraculous creature, was created on twilight on Friday afternoon. But what were the 6 things that the donkey said to Bilaam? Because it's not in the text, it's all in the Midrash, and it's in the Gemara and Avodah Zarah. What are the 6 things? So I'm going to share with you the Talmudic text from Avodah Zarah 4b. Bilaam, as Richard pointed out, the Gemara says, Bilaam claimed to be the one who knows the mind of God, yet he did not even know the mind of his animal. Animals are humbling. So when the Moabite emissaries saw Bilaam riding on a donkey, they said to him, why are you not riding on a horse? A horse is faster than a donkey. So you would fulfill Balak's request quicker. You should be riding a horse. So Bilaam responded, I usually ride a horse, but today I put it out to graze. Immediately, the donkey opened up its mouth and responded in 6 ways. Listen to these 6 comments. Listen to these 6 comments. Number 1, he says, am I not your regular donkey? Bilaam said, no, you're only for carrying burdens. So the donkey said, but you ride upon me. He said, oh, so Bilaam said, no, only occasionally. The donkey continued, all your life. So he said, yeah, Bilaam says, no, only in the past. He says, until this day, meaning today, right now. He said, not only that, the donkey said, Ha'eskein iskanti asot lecha. He said, I give you transportation by day and conjugality at night. Basically, the Midrash assumes the sexual relationship between the donkey and Bilaam. And it's based upon the fact that it says here the words ha'eskein iskanti, and the word is related to the word sochenet, which is attributed to the woman who was assigned to King David, Avishag Hashunamit, the young woman who was placed in King David's bed, was called the Sochenet. So therefore, we see that there's this there's this basically relationship that the Talmud assumes between Bilaam and the donkey. And so too, the Talmud also, Balaturim says that on the verse it says, Asher achavta alai, he says, the donkey says, you rode upon me, and the numerical value is Rivatani, 732, that you have committed this sin of bestiality with me. So the donkey is assumed to be Bilaam's sexual partner. And you might think this sounds crazy, but the answer is, first of all, it's the words of our holy rabbis. And it does seem like he has an unusually close relationship with this donkey, and this donkey has unusual powers. So that's why the rabbis want to assign this special relationship, and also to show that Bilaam, who was the prophet of the nations of the world, does not even have the basic sense of morality that we would expect from a prophet. So, okay. Anyway, this is just some of the ideas from the Balaturim, which I want to answer that question. I want to say one more thing before we get to some of the Hasidic ideas on the portion, and that is that I always, whenever our Daf Yomi intersects with the story of the portion, I always like to share it because it's so important. And our Daf Yomi really intersects today with the portion in two ways. The first way is very specific, and the second way is a more general idea. So I'm going to tell you a story from today's Baba Basra 22a. Okay, I'm going to tell you the story. That the story is, as a background, that they assigned rabbis had a special right to a monopoly in sales. Like if they opened up a store, they would be given a monopoly, because the idea was you wanted to take away the competition so they could get back to their scholarship. And if you didn't take away the competition, they wouldn't be able to study. So rabbis were assigned monopolies in certain areas of business. So there was a rabbi named Rav Dimi who was coming from Nahardai, and he was bringing figs on a ship, and he wanted to get the rabbinic monopoly. He wanted to get that the green card for rabbis, basically. He wanted to be the rabbi who could get the exclusive rights to sell figs in the stall in the marketplace. So the Reish Galuta, who was the professional head of the Jewish community, not the rabbi, but the professional leader, the secular leader, so to speak, he said to Rava, go out and smell his can, which means to say, like, smell him, give him a test, give him the smell test to see if he's really a significant rabbi worthy of being given this very important right. Well, Rava appointed his student, Rav Ada Bar Abba, and go and test Rav Dimi. Okay, we have another figure. Went over to him, and this is the question. I'm sitting here with Guy, and Guy is from Rwanda, and he said there are elephants in Rwanda. So this is the question that Rav Ada Bar Abba asked Rav Dimi. He said to him, tell me the status of the following. He came up with a difficult question. He said, let's say an elephant eats a wicker basket and then defecates the wicker basket, but it comes out whole. Is that still considered a utensil? Is it still considered a wicker basket? Or is it considered manure? Why do we care what it's considered? Because if it's manure, it has certain areas of law, like, for example, it is not considered to be a utensil for utensil laws. And if it's a wicker basket, it's considered a utensil. So they asked Rav Dimi, what's the status of a wicker basket that an elephant produces after going to the bathroom? Good question, right? So Rav Dimi said, I don't know. You must be the great Rabbi Rava. Rabbi Ada bar Abba says, no, I am not the great Rabbi Rava, but I am a greater rabbi than you. That's for sure. And then he reported back to Rava, and Rava reported back to the Rish Guta, and they denied him the right to have the exclusive figs license. So Rav Dimi, because he couldn't answer the question about the basket that the elephant evacuated from his body, he lost the right, the privilege to sell the figs. So then, at that point, of course, Rav Dimi, not having the license, lost his money, took a big loss on the figs. He went to his teacher, Rav Yosef, and he related the story to Rav Yosef. And Rav Yosef said, have no worry. The God, this is what he cites. He says as follows. He says, the one who did not delay from bringing punishment on the kings of Edom will not, the one who did not delay for seeking retribution against the ones who brought punishment on the kings of Edom will not delay to the one who afflicted you. Meaning to say, just like God exacted justice on those who tormented the kings of Edom, so too God will exact justice on those who tormented you. He basically cursed those who tormented Rav Dimi. What does it mean, the one who exacted justice on those who tormented the kings of Edom? And this is how this relates to our portion. This is a verse from Amos chapter 2, verse 1. It says, Ko amar Hashem, thus says God, Al Shloshe Pishei Moab, Val Arba Lo Ashivenu. For 3 sins of Moab, like Balak ben Zippor, Melech Moab, our portion deals with the wicked king, the wicked people of Moab. So God says, I'll overlook 3 of their sins, but for the 4th, I am not overlooking it. Al sarfo atzmos melech Edom lasid, because they took the kings of Edom and they burnt their bones. And so therefore, what we're saying here is that because the kings of Moab, they didn't just attack the Jewish people. After that, these menaces to society went and attacked the kings of Edom and killed them, and God exacted punishment on the kings of Moab for that. So that relates to our portion. But the Talmud also tells us, by the way, before I finish the story, the Talmud tells us this king of Moab, before you're going to start saying how terrible he is, he did have a merit, because he merited that King David is a direct descendant of Balak, the villain of our portion. King David is a direct descendant because Ruth was a Moabite and she was a princess of the Moabites, and she was the great-grandmother of King David. And she's the great-grandmother of King David. And so therefore, this proves that David comes from Balak. Why? Why did David come from Balak? In the merit of the 42 sacrifices that Balak brought as part of Bilaam's offerings to God. In that merit, he merited that King David. So it's ironic that King David will come from Balak and not from Moshe. He's not a descendant of Moses. He's a descendant of Balak in this story. And it tells us that you have to take the long view of history. And if you're not happy with the way things look right now, just take the long view. And the long view, Hashem has his own plan. So anyway, I want to just go back and finish this story. So that's one connection that I wanted to say between our portion and the Daf Yomi, but I also wanted to finish this story. I want to finish this story. So the story is as follows. Hold on, the story is as follows, that after Rav Yosef cursed those people who cost Rav Dimi his livelihood, soon after that, this rabbi who had given Rav Dimi a hard time, his name was Rav Ada bar Abba, soon after that, he died. Now, why did he die? So the Talmud's going to share 5 different rabbis who all attributed his death, Rav Ada bar Abba's untimely death, to mistake to an interaction with them. That Rav Dimi had somehow done something wrong to them in his interaction with them, and as a consequence, because he wronged them, therefore God punishes him. Meaning to say, because Rav Dimi had wronged the rabbi, and insulted them in some way, therefore God punished Rav Dimi. Now the Rav Ada bar Abba and killed him in an untimely manner. Now this, let me first share with you, and then I'll share with you the upshot, what I think the message of it is. So the Talmud tells us that right after Rav Ada died, comes along Rav Dimi and says, it's my fault. He says, it's my fault he died. Why? Well, first of all, Rav Yosef says, it's my fault. I caused him to be punished because I cursed him. I take responsibility. Then Rav Dimi said, I'm the one who caused him to be punished because he ate my figs. He caused my figs to be destroyed because he wouldn't give me a license. That made him subject to God's punishment. So it's my fault. I caused him to be punished. Then Abaye says, no, I caused him to be punished. Why? Because he said to the rabbis, he used to say, Abaye said, when I was opening my yeshiva, he used to say to the students, why are you going to suck the bones by Abaye's yeshiva when you could eat the fatty meat by Rava? Meaning to say, he convinced his students that Rava was a better yeshiva than mine, and so therefore I was insulted, and that has caused God to punish him. So it's my fault. I caused him to be punished. And Rava said, I caused him to be punished. Why? Because when Rav Ada bar Abba used to go to the butcher shop, my attendant would also be there on my behalf. And Rav Ada bar Abba asked the butcher to take him in front of my attendant. Really, he should have let my attendant as a extension of me go before Rav Ada bar Abba. And so therefore I was insulted, and this caused him to be punished by God. And then Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak gives the final answer. He says, I encouraged him to be punished. Why? Because what happened was that we were gathering to give the drasha on Shabbos. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak always used to give the drasha, and before he would give the drasha, he would go over it. He would have a chavrusa with Rav Ada bar Abba, and he would always go over it, and then he would go up and give the shir. But this one time, Rav Ada bar Abba was delayed by Rav Papa and Rav Huna, who had missed the shir the previous shir, or had missed the siyum, whatever it was exactly, and they detained Rav Ada bar Abba, and they said, give us the whole discussion of what we missed. And he said, Rava said this, and Rava said this. He gave them the whole discussion, but meanwhile, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak was delayed, and the student said to him, go up and give the shir already. What's the delay? He said, and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak made a flippant joke. He said, I'm waiting for the coffin of Rav Ada bar Abba to pass through. Made a joke like he's probably dead, so I'm waiting for that coffin to come. It's not so funny, but that was a joke he made. And then right after that, the word came out that Rav Ada bar Abba had died. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said, it's my fault. It was like sometimes the expression in Hebrew is kishigaga hayotzei mipi hashalit. Like sometimes the leader will say a flipping comment, but it will still have incredible ramifications. So for this reason, and the Gemara says that it's logical to assume that Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak was the one who caused Rav Ada bar Abba to die in this untimely manner. We see from here, and this is the point, the relationship to our parsha. The whole thing was the power of the spoken word of Bilaam. What does it matter what he says? It's whatever God does. What does it matter what Bilaam says? No, excuse me, we see from here that's not true. There's some power when you speak something. If you have a scary thought or a thought that we don't want to come true, it's better not to say it. Better not to say it, because this is what, better not to talk about it, because sometimes you say things like Bilaam said these things. That's why it's so important to turn his words into a blessing. And there's power to the words. Even if we don't understand it, there's an energy and a power to the words. That's something I believe, and that was what Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak made a bad joke about somebody dying, and that joke came true. So that's the power. And then the other thing I wanted to mention about this story, and then I'll take questions, is that why were these rabbis all assuming that it was their fault? We have 5 different rabbis all assuming it's their fault. Like they're not the ones who did something wrong. So Tosfos explains, it's based upon the Gemara in Shabbos. The Gemara in Shabbos says, Kol mi shechaveru nena shal yado, anyone for whom his friend will be punished as a result of something he did to you, then you won't be able to go into the partition with God. Meaning, if there are 2 people, Reuven and Shimon does something to Reuven that causes, well, let's leave Shimon out of it because Shimon's on the class here today. So we have 2 people, Reuven and Levi. And Levi does something to Reuven, and as a result of this, God is going to punish Levi. Well, so God is punishing Levi because of something he did to Reuven. Gemara in Shabbos says, well, then Reuven himself won't be able to go into the partition with God. He's not being punished actively, but he is being denied entrance into a very special place in heaven. And this is to encourage Reuven himself to go out of his way to try to work it out with Levi, even though Levi was in the wrong, so that Levi won't receive a punishment from God. Because once Levi receives a punishment from God, Reuven won't be able to go into the partition of Hashem. It's a very powerful idea. It talks about our responsibility to try and figure things out, even though we're not the ones who did the thing that was wrong. So these are, we really are just touching the surface of this portion, but I wanted to stop now to take questions. If anybody has any questions, happy to address.